Recording. Okay, we are going to be recording this meeting for learning purposes. Josh, hi! Oh my goodness, so many cool people are here. I feel so happy right now. Okay, so we are recording this just so that we have it for the future and other people can learn. So we appreciate you all being here and understanding that piece. We also ask that if you can mute yourselves when you are not talking, because otherwise you end up popping up on the video in a really weird way. So it might just be you like looking around. So it makes a very surreal experience. So, but we also are going to be talking. So this is about discussion. So it'd be kind of weird if we had a session about discussions and there was no talking. So again, we are just overwhelmed and excited that there are already 21 people here. We are asking that that you type the following in the chat. Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Hi, Janine, how are you doing? Okay, so let me start my slideshow. I'm trying to do a good job here. Okay, so this is all, you know, by practitioners, for practitioners. So we are just thrilled that you are here, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we're going to work through this together. I have invited, so I'm always the worst at this for some reason. I always tell my students that I either over-introduce or under-introduce them and others. So I am Kelan, Kelan Koning, and hopefully you can see my screen. I'm the communications coordinator from 3CSN. We do everything here together in collaboration and community. We are excited to have you here. I also teach English at CSU Northridge, and I have two of my wonderful and amazing students here as well. So I'm really thrilled to have them here because I don't think we can really talk about working with students without actually having some students in the room, especially the ones who have done this stuff. So I'm excited about that. Anyway, and I am joined by Diana Bonilla Hein, who is amazing. Please introduce yourself.
Welcome everyone. So yeah, my name is Diana Bonilla Hein. I am the Los Angeles Regional Coordinator for 3CSN, and I'm here to assist Kelan behind the scenes, managing the chat room, so that she can definitely move on with the content. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat room. If they're appropriate to what she's doing and you have a question, I can definitely unmute you, or I can read out your question for you, and Kelan can address it in the moment. But if it's a question that can be postponed until we have our Q&A session, then that will help Kelan continue with her flow. But do you think that's okay, Kelan?
Oh yeah, that sounds wonderful.
Okay, right on.
Okay. And I also would like to introduce two of my wonderful students, Naomi Castillo. Naomi is in. Naomi is in my current class. Go ahead, Naomi, sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just going to introduce myself. I'm proud to be one of your students, and she's helped me out a lot.
Ah, yay. And my wonderful student, Lizzie, who was in my class last semester. So Naomi's in my class this semester, and we are starting, as we always talk about the journey and community, we are starting our journey online this week, ladies are. So they're going to help me out a little bit as we go through, and you'll be able to also ask them some questions at the end. We just quickly wanted to just talk about what this series is about, and some of you are familiar. I see some familiar faces, which is really thrilling. So I don't want to go through so much in terms of like just, you know, continuing to repeat. But the title of our series is Wayfinding Online, Navigating the Virtual Landscape Together. And the reason that we came up with this idea is because, you know, this really is wayfinding, and we have, I think, you know, when we're thinking about our students, we are all wayfinding together, which is a community-based effort. And it's really exciting to think about how we can find our way together, how we can create these, this powerful community And there are opportunities perhaps to reach folks that, we've never been able to reach before. So, there are all of these ways that we can kind of leverage our resources and each other in order to move forward right now through this time that is stressful and uncertain. So again, if you could type your name and everything. Our first slide says we know that great learning is produced through what we call productive struggle, right? And it might be for some of you feeling that way. Like, oh my God, I have to deliver all this stuff and I have to learn all this technology and I have to know everything. And if I don't, I'm failing everybody. And there's all this stress and like we're holding it in our bodies. And so a little bit later on today, we'll be having some sessions including mindfulness, and we will post about those in the chat, but definitely you can go to 3csn.org and get that information as well. Okay, so again, we can do amazing things when we work together. You can see our objectives are, just to bring people together and to help our students and to retain them. Because the online forum, a lot of times some students say they're super excited about being online, and again, I know I'm preaching to the choir right now, but some students say that they're really excited about, being online. But then when they start doing some things, they're kind of like, oh, wait, there's no one to sit next to me and I can't talk to that person. And so how do we create new opportunities for that? Okay. So our theory of change is 3CSN's theory of change. If we provide training on networking, so working together, and we use action research methodologies. So this is based on research, right? Action research where and praxis where we go in and we try and then we come back and we figure that out and then we go back again and we kind of look for that value. Then we will transform our environments and our identities. And I mean, Diana and I both, just want to share, that this is, being able to transform your identity is really powerful, right? And our identities as faculty may be a little bit challenged right now because it's kind of like, oh my God, who am I in this world? It's a little bit different. So it's like, okay, well, how do we transform our identities and then transform these environments? These environments have been transformed for us right now, so we have no choice, right? And that will produce powerful learning and working across campuses. Okay, so again, working across campuses, and then our students will be more successful. Okay, so we have, our learning goals. What I did want to say again is if you can mute yourselves, that would be great, because then you don't become an accidental star in the recording. So again, those create some interesting moments, but definitely it would be very helpful if you could mute yourselves unless you are asking a question. We are kind of holding questions. Diana is curating those questions, and she will share those questions with me so that we can go ahead and make sure that as many questions as possible are answered for you. And again, we're just very excited that you all are here. Okay, so you may take bio breaks and all that. We won't know. Just turn your screen off and you're good. Okay, so now I just kind of wanted to start with, I'm going to post I'm going to share a link with you. And this is one, I know that this says it's using discussion forums, but there are different ways to do discussion. And so one of the things that some of my students and I have done, and again, one of the things that we do want to say is we are not experts. We do not know every single thing that there is to know. What we are as practitioners, and we are very curious and excited and interested folks who collaborate with our students and build knowledge together. So again, if we don't know, as we always say, like, we will figure it out together. And I know Naomi and Lizzie can tell you, my two students who are here, if you just joined us, can tell you that we figure it out together, and sometimes they know a lot more than I do. And so that's actually something that builds community. And I actually have community points that I give students who help. So I'm going to go ahead and type in the chat real quick the link for all of you to go ahead and come into this document. And let me share. Can you all see the what do discussions mean to you screen? Perfect. Okay. So what I would invite you to do right now is to think about what you think about when you think of class discussions. And then if you can go ahead and just type it in here, let's give this a try and see if it looks like chaos or if it's something that kind of is cool. So I'm going to give you about a minute or so to go ahead, or maybe 2 minutes. Let's say 2 minutes to think and then to write. And Naomi and Lizzie, if you could also type in here. Thank you. I'm so happy right now.
Oh, shit.
And that's going to happen as well. We love cursing. Okay. Especially at 9 o'clock in the morning. That's essential. Oh, these are really good.
So on some interfaces, you might have to click like a pen or something like that to type in the Google Doc. I know I had to do that on my iPad. So if you're using
Okay.
there's
Thank
an
you.
icon. Yeah, there should be an icon like a pen icon. Click on that and that should allow you to type in the document. I have a question from Christine Kelan. Since my students are English learners, many are much more relaxed and just talking about a story they read rather than having to write a summary. I guess it was just a comment.
No, it's a comment.
Yeah, gotcha.
Okay, Christine, yeah, I agree with that. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. Yeah, for sure. And that's why, even though we say this session is about discussion forums, we're going to talk a little more about some different ways how discussion can happen. So kind of that richness of variety. Thank you.
Some other questions about if Google Docs are ADA compliant.
Yes, thank you, Josh. I believe they are, but we will look into that. That's something also to, okay. Liz says she can't write in the document. Okay. You should all be able to, so we'll look at this because it says no sign-in required, but we will look into this a little more. So this is why this is kind of like an experiment. We usually, and I'll share with you, yes, Robert, sorry about that. Okay, so we will share with you how some steps, and then we'll look into why you're not able to write in the document, okay? All right, so it looks like we've had a few minutes, so let's look at what we've come up with. So, and you can keep typing if you want. The nice thing about this is you can also see that that you are, you don't have to have perfect typing. You don't have to have perfect spelling. You can type what you like and think about it, and this is something that we did together. So my students and I 2 weeks ago met, and we were able to have a wonderful discussion. It was 4 students, but we actually did some editing of thesis statements and pasted things into a Google Doc together and shared it. And we were able to, oh yeah, you need to go to the Google Doc itself. If you're trying to type on my screen, that will not work. Okay, so So make sure to do that, okay? But it was a really amazing experience to be able to, and students were actually doing a more thorough job than they did in class when they were doing peer review. So that was kind of cool. So some of the things are seeing and hearing other people, being in a common space with other human beings. Yes, that's a tough one right now, right? Yeah, that's getting aha moments. Oh my God, that's the best, right? Hearing my own thoughts out loud or in print. Yes, okay, getting those thoughts out. Students working together and sharing ideas. So it's not just about like that discussion becomes a space for students to do that together. And that's hard, you know, especially like when, you know, as faculty, right? You know, when we're in the front and we're there with that awkward silence, right? You know, and we're kind of like, okay, how long do I wait until this thing happens? Or we're doing that, what a lot of faculty, you know, have been taught to do, right? Which is to basically, to keep saying like, no, that's not the answer that I'm looking for. Okay, so students getting to know each other, introduce themselves and such. Engaging in critical thinking and getting into writing, getting to hear the student perspective. What else are you all noticing about what's happening here in the discussion? Like what is special about this particular kind of document?
Let's see. And then feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to.
Oh, hi, Joan. Let me go ahead and post the link so you can get, oh, no, that's not gonna work. I just typed this other thing.
Yeah, I think I've got it.
Okay, thank you.
There it is, Joan,
Okay.
in the chat box.
Okay, so it records student responses. Okay, and what happens when we record student responses? Like what happens in a discussion? Naomi and Lizzie, do you have any thoughts about like what happens in a discussion when you're just like nervous about what you're gonna say?
You kind of become unsure about whether everyone else in the class is going to agree, or if you're going to get any feedback out of it, or if like your response is at all relevant. That's how I feel sometimes in discussions, just because I'm a nervous person. So
Right.
so I like the feedback, but sometimes it just gets me nervous to speak up in the first place to get that feedback.
Okay, so what do you get that's a little bit different here in this document?
In this document, you just throw out your ideas and then we discuss about it instead of like, oh, let's see who wants to raise their hand. No, everybody puts in their thoughts and it's discussed.
Okay. Ideas Anonymous, because you are now, if you look in the upper right corner, this is kind of fun. You are like, people are like an anonymous, I can't even pronounce this. This is amazing. It's like Nawat. Anonymous social.
Axolotl. It's the little underwater
Axolotl. Oh, thank you.
lizard in the lake in Mexico.
Oh my God. Anonymous Dumbo octopus. I mean, it's so fun, right? You know, like I love it. Anonymous bat. Okay. So it does keep the ideas anonymous, but they can also put their name next to it. So when I do collaborative documents with my students, I will actually, and Naomi knows this, I started doing this semester, I put like their names next to it. So, you know, one of my students, I was like, oh, you know, here's, you know, this great thing that this student said. And they're like, ooh, this is kind of fancy. You know, I get to be like, you know, quoted here. What I appreciate about this particular format, and some of you, if you want to, okay, so the whole class engaged in discussion stimulated by the question. Okay. Everyone sharing at the same time is kind of chaotic and fun. Okay. So the thing that I want to highlight here as well is that it also is a space where everything is recorded. Okay. So if you're a nervous student, like Naomi was mentioning that she is, and I know I'm always just like, you know, as a student, like I was always like, okay, I'm going to say this thing. And so guess what I'm not doing is listening to other people's ideas. And so when we're doing these collaborative docs, sometimes this is a great opportunity to think about like, how do we kind of like leverage this to actually record things and to be able to go back to them. So let me show you how to do this magical thing. Okay, let me Okay, so if you go into, on Canvas, we have, can you all see my Canvas screen? I always get nervous that it's not showing things.
Yep.
Can you see the Canvas screen? Perfect, okay. Thank you, Christine, you are my go-to person now. Okay, so also I'm enjoying your bookshelves.
Oh God, there's trolls. There's a family of trolls.
So you put in the description and then you drag people over there and then they will pop up. They will get a notification right now. Naomi and Lizzie, you get a notification by email. Yes, Lizzie says yes. Naomi says no. Does it show up under your collaborations on the tab? Yes, okay, so it shows up under the collaboration. So you will be able to go in. So here I have my collaborations and it says, what do discussions mean to you? And this is where we actually click in order to get into this document. So your students actually will have this available. A screen reader should be able to read it. So I would imagine, I can't imagine why it wouldn't be possible for this to be ADA compliant. Okay, I would imagine, I'm pretty sure that Google has been working really hard on that, but we will double check that. And just as a shout out to our Padlet, we do have community workshops and resources for online engagement and support Padlet that we will link that has a whole thing on accessibility, okay, and LACCD links and live captioning, things like that. So this is important for Zoom. We're going to be doing a Zoom session later on today. So for those of you who haven't been to that, we're going to be doing some more Zoom sessions and we'll be able to talk more about that. Okay, so is everybody good with this? Was that fun? A little bit, hopefully. Some new ideas, hopefully. Jennifer's Lizzie. And then we're going to start collaborating together. And that's it. And there it is, writing from bed. And then you can just treat it like a regular Google Doc. The other thing that you can do is I do a lot of Google Doc sharing with students and for peer review and such. And we are going to be doing a peer review session. So again, you know, these are tools that you can use. Are these necessary in order to do your job? Absolutely not. And that's something important to know. But is this a way to engage? Is this a way to retain? Is this a way to make the classroom more democratic? My answer is, you know, I think so. All right, so I am looking forward to hearing more about writing in bed. So Lizzie, you can go ahead and continue this document for us. But right now I wanted to show you the discussions, and that's why I'm super excited that Lizzie and Naomi are here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at a discussion right now.
Kelan, before we move on to discussions, one last question about the actual doc. How is it recorded and saved?
Oh, Google Docs already record and save everything. And oh my goodness, let me show you these, oh my goodness, amazing things about this. Okay, and I'm going to be doing another session on Google Docs because it is one of my best friends. We are BFFs.
And then one other question, Kelan, can you set up specific groups for collaboration? For example, if someone's already set up a group.
Yes, yes, you can. Yes, you can. So when you drag people in, you can set up those groups. Absolutely. Okay, so yes, absolutely. Now, I don't know if it's possible to do it. I would have to look more into it. That's a great question and probably something that I'm going to be working on. But yeah. Okay, so when you go to version history, this makes me so happy. And I know this is taking an extra second, but you can see the version history. So students cannot, you know, like, do you all remember that time? I'm sure many of you do, when you were like, my entire document disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you have that horrible feeling? And it was like the pit in your stomach and you had to go to therapy and all of that. Okay, so this is actually, this has all of the versions. So even if, like, I had a student who said I deleted everything, like I decided that I didn't want to write that paper anymore and I deleted everything, and I said, well, guess what? You can go in here and you can get it back. Okay, so you can click on the different versions. You can also name the versions. Okay, so you can actually name these versions. So that's super cool as well. So just something to think about, that you can share with your students in case they're, wondering about this in this brave new world that we're living in. Okay. So anybody read that wonderful book?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I
Yes,
love that he raised his hand.
Yes, Daniel.
I'm on this Google's Doc page, and is that what I'm supposed to be seeing? Because
Yes.
I can't get off of it.
Uh-huh.
That's it. There's nothing. I'm not stuck on it. I can't move on to any other.
Okay, you probably need to close it.
I don't know how to do that.
Okay. I think Diana can provide you with some support right now in the chat, hopefully. Okay.
I can't get on I'm only on this Google's Doc, and I can't seem to get back to anything. So.
Can you minimize that window, Daniel?
Yeah.
Okay, and then maybe you see a Zoom icon or the camera icon that you can click on, and that'll bring you back to the online meeting.
Oh, I see. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Thank
awesome. Okay. Yay. Yay,
Thank
Daniel.
you.
Okay.
That is
All
a-
right. And this is going to occur. Okay. This is going to be occurring in class.
Mm.
All of these things are going to be happening. We are going to engage in this productive struggle together in the beginning. So, we are a community, and this is important, and the faculty are going to ask the students to help, and the students are going to ask the faculty to help, and we're all going to ask each other, and we're going to get through it and learn. Okay. So the discussions, this is something that can be asynchronous or synchronous, right? And so can the Google Doc. The collaborative doc doesn't have to be happening through Zoom, although it is fun to do that. Okay. But all of this can happen separately. But I wanted to show you, so the discussions actually happen over here. So you click on your left-hand side. Yours may look slightly different depending on the arrangement. I'm at Cal State Northridge. And I also want to just, give a shout out to your wonderful world that allows you to have that great integration of Google of Zoom, because we do not have that. So in our Zoom session, I'm a little bit off. But if you click on discussions, you can actually, up here, you can add a discussion. Okay, so I'm going to show you a few different things as well in terms of how you can use that. But the discussion here, if you add it, you're going to go ahead and type a title. Okay, so we're going to say, what does it mean to work from bed? Okay, and just so you all know, I actually decided to throw out the wonderful art paper that we were writing, right, Naomi? Okay, and give students an option of writing about what it means to be a student in times of crisis. And so, in this time of disruption and crisis. And so we are going to be doing, and Naomi, you're hearing it here first, we're going to be spending time together documenting and recording what our days look like and what it means to be a student right now. And I'm going to write alongside with them, and I'm going to be doing it about being a faculty member in this time as well. Okay. So because this is a brave new world, this is a new, and again, we hope that this is not the new normal, right? But it's an opportunity for us to think about, how are we maybe reshaping the way that we think about things. So, but what does it mean to work from bed? And then I will give instructions here, and I'll give you some examples of that later. And then I can decide on some things. So picture of a bed for all text. Reddit replies, or you can not. If you want students, and this is something to think about, if you want folks to be able to perhaps post first before seeing replies, for instance, if you feel like they might just write what the other person is doing and do the kind of like, oh, I agree so much and I have nothing else to say, then you can let them post before seeing replies. I usually don't do this because I actually find that seeing other students writing actually helps students, but you can do that if you feel like there might be situations where you want their honest first response, right? You can enable podcast feed. I would love to see someone else do that. I personally have never done this, but it does seem pretty cool. So I will probably be playing with that. I usually make them graded discussions, but you can also, depending on what it is, and I will share a little about that in a second. Nira, the podcast feed is like basically, I think it's about, you know, creating like a podcast, but I think it kind of like lives in that podcast space, but I think we're going to find more. Oh, the podcast is those kind of like Serial. Did anybody hear about Serial? NPR has a bunch of podcasts, so they're recorded. From what I understand, you know, what I know about podcasts, they're recorded sessions. So I would imagine that that would be a recorded session, but I'm still trying to figure out like how Enable Podcast Feed functions. I haven't used it. You can also add it to your student to-do list. Yeah. So if you want them to definitely like do something, it's going to come up under the to-do list. This will come up as an assignment if you click on graded. So we're going to make this into a graded assignment. And you can decide if it's going to be a group discussion that's going to be in separate groups. If you do that, then you're going to see your different groups and you can choose your group categories, or you can have everybody in here together. A lot of times students, Lizzie and Naomi, you can pop in if you like, but I think that students sometimes like seeing what everyone is saying, unless depending on what it happens to be. So sometimes we use discussions like we did, a student to-do list does not have to be graded, no. Okay. And my students actually, Josh, do use the like function a lot, but you know, it just depends. I always wonder about the, you know, students that post later. Lizzie's always the first one. So that was helpful because, you know, then she got a lot of likes at that time. So I guess that's kind of an incentive, but the student that posts at the end, we're still kind of thinking about like, you know, I personally am thinking about like, how do you do all this? Okay, but you can kind of choose the points possible. You can just decide how you want to do this. So you could just do like complete and incomplete as well. Okay. So I've done some discussions that were like, you're done or you're not done. And then if they stay incomplete, then they have to complete it in order to get, you know, whatever, you know, the credit for doing it. Okay. Then you put it in the assignment group that you want it to be in. And that is, you know, if you're coming to the Canvas or you're very familiar with Canvas, then it will attach itself to whatever group you put it in. So I have participation. Most of my participation points for class are through these kind of discussions. I don't usually give students credit for discussing in class. I find that gets a little bit hard for me to track. And I also believe in keeping students connected offline. So the discussions are something that they do offline and they get points for that. And there are various ways that they do that. Sometimes it's discussion, sometimes it's other things, but usually it's the discussions. You can require peer review. That's another piece of it. You can just, I ask them to post, I'll show you right now, to post to, let me go ahead and just publish this. It doesn't have all this stuff in it, but okay. Oh, everyone. I'm like, how you do this? So this is all the students have to do, is just go in here and reply. So we're gonna just hold off on a second, and I think this is coming up right now. Let me know when you're done, Lizzie. Done? Okay, let me refresh.
So there's a question, Kelan.
Yes.
It says, I use VoiceThread as a language teacher for asynchronous recorded conversations between the whole class. Is there anything comparable in Canvas which doesn't have that? Any way to either record themselves speaking and upload it in a video or pure audio format for classmates to listen to?
You know what? That might be that podcast piece, either way.
So they could record themselves directly on their desktop.
That's right.
Fantastic. Okay.
Yep. So that's all there. Okay.
What do they call that?
Yeah, so click on, you know, record, upload media here.
Oh, that tiny little icon. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's a tiny little icon, I know. I know. I know. I'm realizing how much I'm staring at screens right now. And
I
all
thought that was a YouTube button to embed video. Got it.
no,
Okay.
no, no. It's a record, upload media. So, I mean, you can, and then you have the links here, and then you have insert and edit media. So they can also, and this is one of the things that I think my students are very proficient at this, at uploading and embedding media in here as well. You can paste the embed code. This has gotten a bit upgraded because it used to be that you had to go into HTML. You'll also notice that we have a box function. So you can go into, for those, I don't know if your campus has it or campuses have it, but you can actually go into, we have a shared box space, like a cloud, and we can pull that stuff in there. Does that upload media feature limit the time of recording? Nira, I'm not sure about that. How do you provide students their grades on a quiz they took? Okay, Tony, we're going to be answering that in another session, so I'm excited about. Please come. We have a list on 3csn.org. We have a whole list, a whole host of things that we're going to be doing. So we will be working on that. Okay. So let me see if this cooking has happened. I think Lizzie said that she did reply. Oh, yay. Working while I'm quarantined. All right. Okay, so I'm going to now type in my reply to Lizzie. So you saw that I typed the reply button. I clicked on that. I can put an attachment here. I can basically say, all right, and then I just post my reply. Okay. So that's basically how that works. And then you can put like a video in there. So I have one student who did some incredible stuff in our class, like posted like a bunch of like multimedia things and replied to somebody. And I was like, wow, this is like, they just constantly amaze me with their brilliant minds and ability to think through. And one of the things that I could also say is this is an assessment tool, okay? So these discussions actually give you the opportunity to, in live time, like see as an assessment tool, because I know that many of you, I have this happen all the time, getting instructions on how to participate in discussions. I will share that with you. But I noticed that you see a sea of faces that look like they have very little engagement, let's say. Like the faces look very disengaged. And then they come on this discussion board and it's just like a world has opened up and you're just like, oh my God, like they have all these ideas. And because it's like crickets, right, Naomi? You know, like we're in class and it's like crickets. And then they come on here and it's like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, whew, you're brilliant. You're brilliant. Okay, so this gives me an assessment tool that I have found is really useful. Now, is this the be all and end all? Definitely not. Is it great to use it with Zoom right now? Definitely. But it gives me an opportunity to really like truly like process and engage with their ideas, not interrupt them, which sometimes happens. And if we're in a 1 hour session, things like that. So it makes a democratic experience for students. Okay. So I'm going to go back in here and show you just a couple. I think I have them open already. Okay, so have a couple, I think. If I can find them. Okay. All right, so there are some different ways that I use it. And so I just kind of wanted to share with you. I know this is probably fairly small, so if you can adjust a little. But I use it for different things. So I actually ask my students to do their annotated bibliography and quotes inside of the discussion board. And the reason for that is because it's crowdsourced. So they can help each other with sources and they basically, and then I give examples. So I'm like, you'll be working on your SI session on research, and then you're going to post 2 quotations from your research, not the resources I provided for you. And then I link things in here. So review a sample work cited here. So I link that. If you need help with that, I can show you how to do that. And then I give them a link to OneSearch so they don't have to be looking around like for the library resources. And then I give them an example. So I give the quotes myself, and I call it a modified annotated bibliography because it's not a true one, in terms of like, all of the steps, but it still helps them to surface like some ideas. And then they realize that basically through the discussion board, the way that I try to build it is so that they've already pretty much written the paper by the time they're done. Now, sometimes they recognize that and sometimes they don't, right, ladies? Yeah. So we have that conversation, but we really try so that you're also not losing anything. And my student Iris, who I'm not sure if she's able to be here right now, she said that she had class until 9:15, but Iris did post to me that one of the things she really appreciated was that even though she said it's, quote, not as good as being in class talking to each other, that it provides the opportunity to go back to what you've written and to see what other people have written. And so I think it's a supplement. It's not a substitute, but it's a supplement, okay? So quotations, I give an example, and then I give an example of, and then I give them specific instructions. So maybe, Liz, this is something, I say, review your colleagues' posts and comment on 2 that speak to your work or interest you. Share what it is about the quotation and or analysis that speaks to you and your project. Ask a question or express curiosity in an aspect of the project. So for example, if I were responding to my own post, as I would just enjoy doing because my post was so great, I might say I hadn't thought about the transformative aspect of art this way, and I would like to consider this for my paper and things like that. So this gives them an idea of how to construct one. But this last time, actually, and Lizzie, thank you for giving me permission to use everything that you wrote in class, because I was actually able, and Naomi saw it, right? I was able to pull like some of the, and I asked my students at the end of the semester for permission to use their work, because they are like celebrities who come into my office and meet my other students. I have something called community hours, and so Naomi has met some of the students that they've read papers by and such, which is really cool. I think it's super cool. But so they can ask them questions about their work, and then they really feel like writers. But just kind of like pulling this through, I lost my train of thought with thinking about how amazing community hours are and how I wish that I could see my students in person right now, but it's so good to see your faces. But anyway, so they're able to see what students have written rather than just my scripted ideas. Okay, so really good posts from other students. Now, sometimes that's still intimidating because Lizzie's are amazing and others are amazing. And so it's kind of like, okay, you've thrown down the gauntlet, right? And now you've got to write this beautiful post. And so, but they do, and they rise to the challenge. Okay. So that's one idea in one way. And then I also have a Becoming Me text set. And so is anybody familiar with Reading Apprenticeship? If you can use your, one of your fun things, which is to give a thumbs up on your Zoom. Okay, so Reading Apprenticeship has text sets. I actually can't see any of the thumbs because I'm sharing my screen, so I'm not sure why I'm asking you to do that, but you could do this one, okay? So if you have Reading Apprenticeship experience, but I actually give them text sets, and they're thematic groups of readings, and I give them links. So for instance, if I want them to know like what schema is, things like that. And then as a course community, we will benefit from each other's intellectual work and have breadcrumbs to various intellectual resources to return to in the future. So again, thankfully Iris agreed with what I had to say in her very honest, and Iris is always very honest with me. I appreciate that. Take a few minutes to explore the following, and I just give them a bunch of different readings that I have linked here. So I try to choose this Becoming Me assignment is a really cool assignment that At least I think so. My students have really gotten a lot out of it. Lizzie wrote an amazing paper. Many students wrote great papers about like what it means to be, like what makes them who they are. And so these are identity-based texts. And then we choose that along with a text. Oh, can I make my screen bigger? Yes, thank you, Diana. Let me try. Okay, it says 100%. Okay. Let me try. Oh, yes, I did it. Okay. All right, is that better?
I think so. Maybe can you do a think aloud of how you made your screen bigger?
Okay, so I did Control Plus.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Is that helping a little?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you for telling me. I'm sorry about that. Okay. So, oh dear, I need water. Okay. So I give them also a text that goes with it, which is to read this carefully along with this other text, which is a little more about, you know, I try to give them something that's a little more, this is like quasi-academic in nature, thinking about like what twins can teach us about nature versus nurture. And then we use an evidence interpretation note taker, which is also from Reading Apprenticeship. And we will be doing other sessions that kind of help with those kind of things in the future. Okay, so, but this is really a cool tool, at least I think so. Some students respond to it, some don't, but it's a way for students to practice, you know, like looking at a quote and then using that in order to explain, okay? Then we actually post 2 of the golden lines or strong lines to the discussion, along with at least 1 paragraph each about how these lines relate to the topic of identity and how they might or might not relate to your paper. And then I give extra credit for bringing in more good articles and such. And then read and respond, what additional insights are coming up for you here? What questions do you have? What do you relate to? How might this help with your own paper? Okay. And so honestly, Liz, I think, oh, just 1 second. Sorry, Diana. Honestly, Liz, I would say that one of the things that you can think about is if the discussion is cumbersome for your students, then we might want to rethink like how we're doing that discussion. And so it's like, how do we make it something that the students feel invested in terms of like, you know, how they're going to use it for the work that they're doing in class. Like, how is that? And so helping them to connect to their why, I think is something that's really important. And that might be a good place to start, you know, as we're starting these discussions going into classes. For you all, it's going to be next week. For us, it's this week. Okay. So, Diana, you had something?
Yeah. Can you show us the interpretation note taker?
Oh, yeah.
Or the evidence note taker, I think.
Well, I was hoping you'd ask, but it is 9:52.
Actually, Cindy asked, Cindy Lewis.
Yes. Well, thank you, Cindy, because I totally did want to show that all to you. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully.
And then Josh wants to know if you use rubrics to grade.
You know, I don't, because honestly for these, and Naomi and Lizzie can attest to this, for my personal discussions, okay, here we go. No, you're seeing Equity 101 design principles, which are also very, very important. Okay. But I give them pretty much full credit if they meet the word requirements and they show evidence of thinking, you know, good thinking. So I'm not in the discussions, I am not a stickler on spelling. I am not a stickler on, you know, any of those things. I just want to see the good thinking happening there because that helps them to feel more comfortable and to generate information. So this is the evidence and interpretation note taker. So we see the textual evidence and quote and analysis, not summary, and they're able to use this. Okay, and I can actually, let me see if I can link this somehow. I might be able to put it in the chat. Okay, so let me see. Okay, in the lower right-hand corner of your chat screen, you're gonna see a couple of options here. And one of them is a file, and then there are 3 dots, and you can actually save your you can actually save the transcript of this chat. So that will help you in the meantime. Editing these videos does take a while. I'm the person who does that, so I can tell you that that is the case. So I would suggest that you download the chat now, and then we will have these things up. Okay. But yeah, I don't currently use a rubric to grade, but Josh, that is a good idea, and I have thought about it. I just kind of, you know, I don't know. I haven't done it yet, but it's certainly something to think about. Why did I close the chat? Why did I do that? Okay. All right, so the other thing that I wanted to briefly show you is another way that I use this that might be helpful for you. And the last way that I use my discussions is to build community from the very beginning. And so I start with a building community, and then I do like different parts of the book and things like that. But I like this one on building community. And I ask questions of the students. So they actually use the discussion board, and Lizzie can tell you that one of her classmates actually went back in here later on in the semester when he was bored and lonely, and he replied to everybody in the class, and he was like, yeah, he's like, oh, I was looking at those things, right? So I just ask them like what their goals are, and then we actually go back to this. They copy and paste the goals later on in the semester. What's your plan for success and such? Okay, so what do you plan to do to help bring the class closer together? What makes you feel welcome in a new place? Where did you grow up? What do you enjoy doing when you're not in class? My SI leader and I worked on this together. So what art do you enjoy? Because we do a lot of work on art. Do you have another name you like to go by? What is one thing you'd like to know about the instructor and classmates? This is actually really fun. And we do something called question of the day. And I think that this is another space along with the collaborative doc where students could answer the question of the day, which ranges from, you know, what's your favorite candy and things like that. So the students actually really seem to enjoy it. I don't know. Naomi, do you enjoy the question of the day?
Yeah, I personally really like it just because it gets people going for the day. We have a 2 o'clock class, so like in the afternoon everybody's kind of tired.
Oh my gosh, yes. We actually need food and that. Okay.
Yeah, and so the question of the day just kind of gets us started back up to the routine of being in the classroom.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, so we have 3 minutes. So do you all have any other questions? I thank you for participating in this discussion in a very meta way. So do any of you have questions that you might want to ask right now? If not, then I can ask Lizzie and Naomi if they have any additional. Would you like to hear from them?
I have a very basic question, and
Sure.
make me seem like a real.
Of course, Daniel.
But I haven't done this yet. I have a meeting set up on Zoom for tomorrow morning.
Okay.
So when I click on to start my meeting, will I be able to also be on Canvas?
Yes, because you will have Canvas open. So what I did is I actually had I was really scared that my tabs were all going to close or my computer was going to crash because I have too many tabs open. But you can have everything open and then you just share your screen. So at the bottom, you just click on share screen and then you'll have Canvas open for them.
Okay, so I have Canvas open and then I go to the Zoom app to sign in.
You're going to go to Zoom and then and actually, Daniel, you please come to our Zoom session a little bit later today and we will help you with all of this stuff.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. Oh, let me throughclan.org. Diana, can you share the schedule?
Oh, sure.
Thank you so much.
Let me see. Do you want me to share my screen or just share the schedule as a link? Let me see here.
Okay, we're going to give the link. Okay, hold on one second. And I hope you like this. You can tell me if you like it or not, but we organize this now by day. Is that helpful to kind of, so if you want to spend your day with us, you can. We would love to. Okay. Yeah, Cindy, I will share this with you.
Thanks.
Okay, and we have an entire week full of good stuff. Okay, so
No way.
3csn.org, that's all you have to remember. That is our wonderful organization. So next up is creating feedback through online tools. So if you want to learn about that, which I think is really helpful. Then we have Canvas 101 coming up at 11:30. We're trying to give you a bio break, as we call them, in between, so you can go to the restroom. Then we're having a brown bag hour, and I'm going to be leading this, and we're going to be talking about workspaces and how you might be able to create a space that's both calming for you and useful for your students, or something lovely like what Christine has behind her. Okay, not all of us have that loveliness, I know. It makes you look like a super academic. I love it. Okay, then we're going to have a thought partner hour. So anybody who's STEMmy, please come to that. And then we have a student drop-in hour. So if you have students that, you know, you're kind of like, oh my gosh, my students, I'm worried about them, send them to us. Send them to us, please. I will be leading this session as well and would be thrilled to have them there. And then we are actually having Sarah, who's our wonderful person who's 3CSN coordinator, who handles mindfulness, is having a space for art sharing. And that will be at 5 o'clock. Okay, so that will be 1 hour of mindfulness and sharing with each other. Does Zoom work okay on cell phones? 3CSN.org, it definitely does. It's wonderful. And if you have to call in, or you have students that need to call in and such, the instructions are on 3csn.org website right here. Okay, so if you're joining by phone, follow these instructions, because we wanted to make sure that people had the opportunity. There is a student drop-in hour every single day at 4 p.m. We're trying to make it really consistent. And our brown bag series is every day at noon. Okay, so you have that time. Okay, so thrilled to have you all here. Please join us right now. I have to get out of this session so we can start the other one. But I'm just so grateful for all of you and all the work you're doing. We truly are academic first responders. As our colleague Lilith said, that the healthcare providers are the front lines right now, but we're the ones who train those frontline people. Okay, and so our job is so important and beautiful. And just be kind to yourselves and be kind to your students. And we're all a community. And it's hard when we're all stuck in the house and we have a lot of kids like running over us. And other things happening and being worried. But the thing is that we can work from bed, and that is a plus, right, Lizzie? Thumbs up. Okay. All right, my darlings. So we'll see you a little bit later.